Welcome to Daddy Ball, an in-depth look at the issue of parent coaches in youth sports. Something I've come across a lot recently is a lot of comments, Instagram posts, Facebook posts warning parents about the issues of joining a youth sports team with a parent as a coach. And I totally understand the potential bias that may come up, and we all have heard horror stories about some of these issues and biases. But I really wanted to get an in-depth look and really talk to some parents on teams to really see, is this as big of an issue as it's played out to be on the internet, or are some of these people making an issue out of something that's not really there? So we're going to talk with 6 different dads of various teams. Some are coaches, some are not, some choose to coach, and some have left that up to a paid coach. And we really just want to dig in, provide some value, and hopefully give you some different perspective on the issue. I think there's a lot of great points that come up in these discussions, and it's not a simple black or white yes or no answer. I think we really need to dig in, find a little bit more information about that organization, and make an informed choice for yourself and your family. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys get something out of it. Please leave a comment if you've had any issues, positive, negative. Are you a coach? Have you joined a team with a parent coach? Whatever that looks like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get your perspective. Thank you.
So we're here for another episode of Daddy Ball, and for everyone listening or watching, really what I'm looking to do is just kind of dive into this topic of Daddy Ball, or a parent with a child on that team. So, there's a lot of talk about this. It can be good, it can be bad, there's things wrong with it. It's a great way for, families to bond. It might be the only situation that's available, or that parent has stepped up. And so really what we're trying to do is just get some insight and some perspective on the entire topic, maybe give you a different viewpoint, or just some more information when you are evaluating your teams. So we're here with Martin, who has a couple of kids who play baseball at different levels. And so first of all, thanks a lot, Martin, for taking a few minutes out of your day here and chatting about your family life and baseball and everything like that. So I do appreciate that a lot.
No problem, Sean.
Yeah, and so really what I want to get into is let's first just talk about where you're at right now in terms of where your children playing, what types of teams are on, and where are you located in terms of where are they playing right now?
Okay, so I'm based in upstate New York, and I have 3 children, 3 boys that are very much involved with baseball, but they're involved in baseball on different levels.
Okay.
My oldest is 17, and he's currently on the varsity high school baseball team, and he's a bench player, sometimes a starter. My middle son is 15. He's a 9th grader. He's, the baseball prodigy of my family, so to speak. He's also on the varsity team, and he is a starter. And then my youngest is 13 years old, first time on the big field. He's going to be playing modified. So that's their school situation. All 3 of them play travel ball. My oldest and youngest play on local travel teams, where all of their tournaments will be local to where we live, to our region. My middle son plays travel ball, and he'll travel all over the East Coast. So last summer we were in North Carolina, we were in Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and he'll have a similar schedule this summer as well.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, a couple of different levels there in terms of skill and probably the team, different classifications and stuff, I would imagine as well. Did they all start in kind of a similar kind of feeder league or feeder team before we started to branch out?
Yes, they started in our local rec league.
Okay. And so as I would say, your middle son probably started to show some signs of, potential and, elevating maybe above his teammates or whatever that looked like. You kind of saw something that, or coaches did as well, I'm sure, that, kind of brought him up and started to show him that he's maybe a little bit above, you don't want to compare your kids, of course, right? But maybe a little bit more competitive than some of than your other sons?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of evaluating your teams, what was the thought process of, as, each son progressed? What did those teams look like? What was available in the area? And, what were you evaluating each of those teams that you were, whether trying out for or trying just to get a feel for that organization and almost interview them and see if it was a good fit for your son?
Well, it's an interesting question. When they were younger, and focusing on my middle son and I guess my oldest son, we were thinking, and I still try to think of baseball as just a fun activity for them,
Yeah.
extracurricular activity that they get a lot of enjoyment out of. So they started, all three of my boys started with the local rec youth league, which also provided travel teams. And the travel teams were just playing our local, the surrounding communities in our area. And I can give reflection on Daddy Ball, quote unquote Daddy Ball, now that they're much older, but I certainly wasn't thinking about it that strongly at the time that we were trying out for teams. My middle son, my 15-year-old, now 15-year-old, lucked into a good organization at the time when he was 10U. I had him try out for that team with another couple of his teammates and their fathers. And looking back, that would be the advice I would give to families that are evaluating what to do with their kids if they want a competitive travel team, would be to not look at who's coaching the team first, but look at the organization. What is the organization trying to do? Is the organization trying to give their kids development, a good mechanics? Do they have a track record of putting kids in college when they're on older teams? That's what I was looking for. And as it turned out, the team that he tried out for, there was a head coach and an assistant coach who both had kids on the team. And I became the scorekeeper of that team. So okay. I was inadvertently or thrust into the Daddy Ball situation myself.
Yeah.
And so to give some perspective on that, and I think you hit this in the introduction, when kids are young, and I would say 6U, 7U to 12U, before they're playing high school ball, at least in my area, and I imagine this is true for a lot of areas, it's going to be hard to find a paid coach at that level. So it's more important to find the right organization and the right coaches that are really focused on mechanics and training. Because what they're doing is they're volunteering in their local communities or at these organizations. And in some sense, it's kind of thankless, but and I know what everyone is concerned about, especially when they're researching this issue. They're concerned that the coaches who are the dads are going to put their kids at shortstop. They're going to pitch them. They're going to put them up second or third or fourth in the lineup and not care about anyone else on the team. They're going to just organize the whole team around their kids. And I'm sure that that's true. And I've actually seen that on a team with my oldest son.
Okay.
On the team that I was talking about earlier with my middle son, with the head coach and the assistant coach who had kids on their team. The head coach put his kid up 8th in the lineup. And really focused on training. Now, some parents, there was a big roster. There were 25 kids on this team.
Wow.
When there's 25 kids on any team, you're going to have parents that complain.
That's inevitable.
And a lot of them complained, well, why is that kid getting playing time? Well, he's 8th in the lineup. So it's not like he's the leadoff hitter.
Yeah.
And that really gets, I'm sort of talking a lot here, but that gets me to an important point. Everyone's got to be a little bit realistic. Everyone is going to be a little bit biased when they're dads or moms.
Mm-hmm.
Parents are biased about their kids. It's just if you can be objective.
Yes.
And that you can, but you still have to understand that there is a bias there. So sometimes this plays out where a coach will play their kid at shortstop when the kid doesn't belong there. And in my opinion, you march with your feet to another team because that's never going to work.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you see that you can get something from the coach and that the coach really has the kid's interests at heart, even if they're slightly benefiting their own child, and it's at that level, that 10U to 12U level, I don't think that's such a bad situation. I've examined that in my own heart as a scorekeeper.
Okay, yeah.
When my son would hit a shot, for example, deep into the hole of the shortstop, and the shortstop throws to first, and my son beats the throw, and I scored a hit. Am I doing that for every kid? Am I scoring an error for another kid? Am I giving my kid the benefit of the doubt? Well, that was a bad example because that's obviously a hit.
Yeah, yeah. But I see what you're saying there. Yes, yes.
And I have to say, and I have to admit that I understand human behavior, and I understand that on one or two occasions I might have benefited my son on a score when I probably shouldn't have. I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
No.
Having said that, so at some point I did choose a paid coach for my middle son, and that was when he joined a 13U team, because I wanted to eliminate the possibility that he wasn't going to, or I wanted to minimize the possibility that he wasn't going to get a fair shake on the team.
Do you think
my son is a shortstop?
Okay. Yeah.
And a pitcher. So I wanted to make sure that he was going to get an opportunity to fairly compete to be the starting shortstop.
Yeah. Now, do you think the scorekeeping played into that decision? Like, it sounded like it was a pretty good team, from 10U to 12U. The coach was having his son hit 8th, but then you kind of brought it up there that inevitably there's going to be bias. Did that kind of maybe factor into the decision that hey, even though the coach may have the best interest, combined with the fact that your son is now those prime positions where you always see coaches' kids and that stereotype, did those kind of things combine and play into that decision to say, hey, I want to make sure my son has a fair shake here, like you said, so I'm going to look for someone with a paid coach, no kids on the team?
To the extent that I was able to do that, it did play into my decision.
Okay.
My son tried out for and made 2 competitive teams in our area, one of which was going to be coached by a dad who brought 5 or 6 players from his 12U team to this better organization.
Okay.
and his kid is a shortstop, and he's a good shortstop. I know him from the area. And I'm not certain, because the situation never played out, that he would have been a daddy ball type coach, but I just didn't want to put my son in that situation.
Fair, yeah.
And so the organization that I chose, one of the things that they advertised to me or to the team was that they were going to hire a local high school varsity coach.
Okay.
Who wouldn't have any kids on the team, would only be connected by way of a salary to coach the team. And they promised a whole lot of other things towards development and training that sounded very attractive. So that's what we pursued.
Okay. Yeah. And that makes sense. I totally, I'm right with you on that, that decision-making process, especially given the positions that your son played. And, you just never know. And I guess if you have those, that opportunity to compare, right, or evaluate between two organizations that may stack up very similar. And, we're talking, if we're trying to make, varsity in high school, and then even beyond that, whatever level, D1, D2, anything like that, that everything gets, filtered down, and there's so few players who keep moving on to that next level. I totally understand that and agree with you in that sense, and that, you want to make sure that your kid has that fair shot, right? And if one little thing held him back or reduced playing time or even diminished, maybe the love of the game a little bit because of, different circumstances, that could definitely affect his playing future. So I, as a parent, completely, agree and understand that decision to kind of choose that paid coach team.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you think, by the sounds of it, there were these two, competing organizations in the area that, a child could choose between, or a family could choose between. Do you think that that's also part of maybe like a marketing, ploy or a marketing aspect of the one organization to talk about their paid coach and how there won't be any bias? Do you think there were families who maybe chose that just because of that and maybe didn't give that other, organization a fair shot or, fair to look at? And that may be, something you don't
I
even
don't
think
know.
you can answer. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah.
I would imagine so, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. Yeah, I was just kind of curious. By, like you said, by all accounts, that those two organizations were probably both pretty good. But if you have that that father on one, then I think it's definitely going to sway.
Yeah, I mean, I also can appreciate that there's a risk to having a paid coach as well. The risk is that, and people don't talk about this very much, but the risk is that the paid coach, because he's not a father to a kid on the team, doesn't have very strong ties. His only tie is the dollar.
Yes.
So a father who's passionately involved with the team because his kid is on the team may want to sign up for, very competitive tournaments, or may want to take that nice trip to South Carolina or something for some special baseball vacation. Whereas the paid coach, they have their own family, and, unless they're being compensated, they may not feel the urge to do that.
Yeah, that's fair, and I think you're right.
That goes back to my other point, where you want to evaluate the organization. Mm-hmm. What is the organization's game plan, so to speak, for all of the teams under their umbrella?
Yes. I think what you said there kind of nailed it, is that that paid coach is really tied to that dollar and their job. And I don't want to speak for any organization, but I imagine there's metrics that they're going to have to hit, whether it's performance or enrollment, or maybe it's not tied to that at all. Again, every organization is going to be different, but I can just imagine that there may be, and I'm not saying anything about one specific organization, but where a coach may end up taking you to tournaments that maybe they know they have a better shot at winning, so it looks better on him and his program and his position. Whereas, you talked about that really, passionate father who wants all their kids to get better, and maybe they take them to, a more competitive tournament that are going to push them and kind of develop those kids a little bit more.
Right. And they might do that because they want their kid to get into college, and everyone riding, that coattail benefits from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I think this has been a great conversation. I don't think, there is ever going to be, one solid answer whether you should, look at, a paid coach or non, parent coach versus, someone who has their son on the team. If you were to kind of just have a quick conversation or maybe offer one piece of advice, you've been through both of them, right? I have one son who's gone through, the paid coach route, another son who's gone through the daddy ball route. What is maybe, one thing that you would say to, a prospective parent who is approaching that age where maybe now there's a distinction and, some choices to be made? Is there any kind of one final piece of advice that you would give them? Big question. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would ask the parent to really take a hard look at what they're trying to do. Is their motivation to train their kid to get into college to play baseball? Is their motivation to just have a great fun summer playing baseball? Because
Very different things.
They're really two different things.
Mm-hmm.
How serious is their kid want to play baseball, and how serious is it for the parent for their kid to play baseball? Ultimately, it has to be the kid that wants the baseball experience.
Yes.
And then the parent should make their decisions accordingly. My oldest son is not going to play baseball in college. He's 17. He's a junior. He's on the varsity team. He loves baseball, watching it. He keeps the book for the team when he's on the bench. He pitches for them. He loves the intellect, and he just loves the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about him. We can talk about baseball all day and night. He's playing for a team with a dad coach. And that coach is going to play his son at third base or shortstop. And that dad is going to have his son up second or third in the lineup.
Okay.
My son doesn't care.
Yeah.
He just wants to play and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have fun. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. I think, a lot of times it may come down to the parents trying to make the best decision for their kids without maybe getting that input, right? Like you said, you highlighted something really amazing there, is that, there is bias on that team, but your son doesn't care. Right. And then, there's another child who's really invested and wants, every opportunity to kind of shine and advance to that next level. And so maybe that's not an option that, they would consider.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that's really, kind of what we wanted to cover there. I really respect the fact that, you were able to, I guess, remove yourself from that situation and any, personal biases that you may or may not have had, and really just look at, your family and your each individual son and really figure out what is best for them and their development, not only as a baseball player, but, as a human being. Right. And, looking at how's this going to benefit them on and off the field, down the road. I think that's very important for parents to be able to do, so that we can just kind of get the most out of our kids and kind of do what we are supposed to as parents, and guide them as best as we can.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, I really appreciate your time here. We'll kind of let you get back to your busy schedule there, but best of luck with all 3 seasons there, and I hope everyone has a great summer and enjoys every team that they're on.
Thanks.